Okay, so good evening, everyone. It's really nice to be on with you all on Saturday, and sharing the screen with me today is Miss B from from the British school days. She's an ex-colleague with me, and we were together at the British school in Chanakapuri, New Delhi, and we made some lovely memories. And we were always in touch with how to integrate and how to make our lessons more interesting. And the corridors, with no surprises there, would be Miss B, Miss B, Miss B. So I'm sure she will super excite us as well in her session. Welcome to the session, Ritu. And it's such a pleasure to have you here. And the stage is yours. Just rock them. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepthi. That is a fantastic introduction. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. Nobody can say no to Deepthi. We love you. So thank you for having me here. And also welcome to all the participants today. Thank you for being here. I know Saturday evening is the time away from your family, so we understand that. And highly, highly appreciate you being here. Hopefully, we will be sharing the tricks and some of the tools with you today so that you can bring it, use them in your classrooms, and hopefully find them useful. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. So you will have to tell me if you can see my screen as it is, or you can. Do you want me to put it on the presentation mode? Okay. Sorry, I have to tag between the two screens. Here we go. So as Deepthi already said, my name is Ritu Budakoti. I'm the science educator at Keene Middle School here in the US. And basically, I just love to have fun with science. So today's agenda is going to be a quick pulse check, webinar overview, and an honest disclaimer. And then I'm looking forward to share the UDL model of framework of learning, some ideas, activities, tools, and resources that can help you enhance some investigative inquiry science learning for students. And then we will end the session with a parking lot where we will be able to reflect and ask questions if you have any. So let's begin the session by asking, what's the weather like for you today? And when I actually put this question up for my students, as you can say, it's a metaphorical question, also related to the social emotional learning, because we have all experienced the distance when we were doing the remote. So it was very important for me to know how my students are doing, socially and being distant. So just this question opening made sense. Like, sometimes they would just respond by saying, I'm having a very cloudy day today. And I understand that, what is going on. And you can modify this. You can use it in whatever curriculum area you have. You can modify the questions for a quick pulse check. That will give you a sense of scale for your classroom, where you're headed that day, and helps to scale it up or scale it down. So I like to present my session, begin the session by interactive session. So I'm not sure if you all have access to the comments here, but here's what I begin with, like, which SpongeBob are you today? And the students can choose the facial expression of how their day is going, and they can actually, in the comment section, whichever platform you use, if you use, or in the live classroom, if you have them in person, they can actually see what emotion they are going through. So the same idea, and again, this can be conceptualized based on whatever curriculum, subject or the things that you're teaching. And also you can do it. And so one thing before I move on is I have hyperlinked all these slides to the respective resources. So if you click on the link here, it will bring you to the section where it has a deck of slides with different kinds of pictures for you to use them. You are welcome to use them. They're more towards high school, but you can actually change them and modify them for elementary, middle, or high school as well. And if you know me, I do put my beginning of the year as introducing them to different instruments that we use or equipments we use in our science lab. So which conical flask are you today and why so? And then students make their own observations, and it's a good start opener for your lesson. So the webinar overview for today, the learning target that I am hoping to be able to cover is that I can understand the UDL framework to plan hands-on inquiry lessons. I can identify and examine ways to use CER in my content area. I can understand and apply escape room, also known as lockbox activity, in my content area. And I can analyze simulation platforms to run a virtual lab using gizmos and FET. Here we come to the disclaimer that I was talking about. The resources and websites that I will be using in today's presentation is not only my work, but it is a work in collaboration with many other educators. So I don't take the credit for being very creative with it, but I have modified it, tweaked it, that best suits the needs of my students. So please also know that I will be showing you some virtual platforms for simulation that you can use. I'm not endorsing anything. I just want to share as a classroom practitioner with you some ideas to engage young minds. So universal design for learning. Basically, there are many different frameworks of learning these days that we learn about. There is UBD, there is UDL, and people kind of get hung up into which one to follow and things like that. But I do want to say that I really like this framework of learning, because basically UDL is a framework that improves, and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. So basically the goal is that our learners will be purposeful and motivated. They will be very resourceful and knowledgeable, and they will be strategic and goal-oriented or directed. There are three aspects of this model. The first one has to do with the why of learning, how we engage our students. And as if you haven't noticed that yet, but it is about getting them to do something, hands-on learning, and understanding why are we learning what we are learning about. The second one is representation. So the what of learning. Now students will be able to come up with their own conclusion about their own reasoning through a set of steps that we can lead them to, instead of just telling what we are going to do and how we are going to do it, right? So they get their own mode, what we are learning about, and they can make their own inferences out of it. And then the third aspect is the how of learning, which is the action and expression. A good example is coming to an assessment part of our learning, right? We all do assessment, formative and summative. And generally speaking, most of the assessments are tied to standards. And I understand that, some of them are more towards the grading and so be it, the things that originate from that. But giving students more platform to be able to express themselves. So thinking about what would be a best way for me to tell if my students have got this concept or have some misconception. If they do something other than the paper and pencil based traditional kind of a testing, can they do a STEM design? Can they build something? And that way they are not only showing you what they have learned, but they also learn in the process that what can they ask or what can they do next in that. So it's more curious and it's more innovative. So I generally prefer to begin my class lessons by doing a bell ringer. It is also known as to-do nows. So here is an idea that, you can use this in any way, shape, or form. You can do it in physical copies, or you can do it virtually. You can post it in the Google Classroom if that is the platform you use. So basically, we were learning about energy, and we were beginning to learn about energy. So I wanted my students to actually tell me, checking on prior knowledge. That's what we do, right, as educators. So tell me, which of these images do you think is representing a potential energy, and then which one is kinetic? And what I can show you just for a second here, that here is the Jamboard also that goes with it, and the link is also embedded in the slide. So in this, you can see that, you can ask students if you think it's a potential energy, they can just pick and put this in the on the image, so that you can actually do this interactively. You don't have to do it in a passive mode, but you can actually check this out and work with your students. And then you come together as a class and talk about why they think what they think, if you find that they are still confused about any of this. I'm just going back and forth so I understand I am not missing out any comments if you have. Anyway, so that was the bell ringer to start with the class. And again, you can do it in any modality that you choose, but it actually gets you up and running. And sometimes the bell ringers are totally different from what the content is going to be in the classroom that I will teach that day, just to give them the variety. But speaking of that, you can connect your bell ringers to the actual lesson. So it kind of, the discussion from here actually seeps in to the actual lesson. So here are some lesson ideas and resources that I do want to share with you. And well, there is one thing that I want to just share, and I think I said that earlier, that I will be happy to provide you with this presentation at the end of the session, or I will send it to Deepthi so she can share the link with you if you like it. The links are embedded within the slides. So my goal is to be able to give you some tangible resources that you can actually bring into your classrooms to use right away, or to actually modify or tweak them. Now, some of the links will actually force you to make a copy of yours, which is a totally, absolutely safe feature in Google that allows you to make your own copy. And you can then modify it however you want it. So basically, that's the idea of a forced copy. So it doesn't have to request, access rights or stuff like that. So just to protect the main copy, and you can have your own copy. So the first one that I want to talk about is CER. Now, some of you may be familiar with it and maybe using it, but if you're not, I'm very happy to walk you through some of the things that you can do, and the investigation that I have done and has been very successful. So I do this in the beginning of the year. It's called Claim, Evidence, and Reasoning, which kind of sums up with the kind of explanation you want your students to actually come up with. Because, hey, if you have taught in the classroom for some time now, especially with the middle school and high school, some parts in higher elementary too, you ask something to your students like, why do you think this happened? And they will just shrug away saying, yeah, it just happened. Like, why? So there is no in-depth thinking going on there. It's just like, it just happened. I don't know why. So this kind of really gears them towards understanding and seeing how we can actually make connections with those science concepts and then come up with that scientific method. So basically, it's a framework that scaffolds that way of teaching to make connections with science. So according to this model, the CER model we call it, or CER model we call it, there is a claim that basically answers the question. So you come up with a claim that is sort of like an investigative question. Then evidence is what students collect. Now, if you are a teacher who is teaching humanities or history or literary subjects, they can look for some excerpts from the writings or readings that they are doing, students. For science teachers, you can actually talk about evidence in terms of running an investigation and actually using qualitative and quantitative data depending upon the age range of your students and the comfort. But there's a whole lot that you can do with collecting evidence to actually support, to make up the data to support your evidence. And then the reasoning is based on what evidences you have collected that will involve a rule or scientific principle that will describe the why. That is the most important thing, making connections, right? So the why, why something happened. Why do I think it happened the way it did? and then coming up and seeing it based on what results I got and supporting on from what the data is. So it really actually puts the accountability of thinking on the student without them thinking that they're doing the thinking, if you know what I'm talking about. So here's a very quick example. Assume you're learning about matter, states of matter, and your student suggests this explanation. I think air is matter. When they say that, what they're saying is they're making a claim. And then they will give you an evidence, which could be, we found that the weight of the ball increased each time we pumped more air into it. Now that's an evidence. Now, based on what age range you're working with, you can scale this investigation up or down. So if I would be doing this, I could actually work within, because science is part math. What you can actually do, you can scale it up, the diameter of the ball and how much mass, you can measure the mass and you can see how much is the diameter has actually expanded. You can do all sorts of measurement exercise and get the data in terms of the quantitative data to support your reasoning at the end, that you can say this shows that the air has weight, which is one of the characteristics of matter. And that is you're suggesting the reasoning using the evidence you got. There are some beautiful resources out there. If you just Google claims, evidence, and reasoning, you'll come up with thousands of things. I prefer to like some that really are easy and simple to follow. You can see these two templates here. On the left-hand side is a claim, evidence, and reasoning into states of matter. And then on the right is actually a document that asks you about the Battle of Yorktown. And, it is about the Revolutionary War. And again, you can see in two different subjects how the claims, evidence, and reasoning have been used. Now, if you click on the link, when you will have the presentation, of course, if you click the link below, it will bring you to the website where many different CER examples, the anchor charts, have been embedded. So again, you are welcome to use them if you think this will make, if this is of any value to you and the curriculum that you're teaching. Now, here is a scientific inquiry that I do with my students about, using CER, teaching them the scientific method using claim, evidence, and reasoning. And one benefit of doing this in the beginning of the year is that it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the year. And you can do it as one-off, but I like to actually start this like really with big on this. They understand the idea, they understand the process of it, and then we keep referring to it in every single lab that we do after that. So it's really helpful to see them, what claim are we making, basically your hypotheses, and what are our evidences, how are we collecting the data, and then how are we coming up to a conclusion, right? So it's basically helping them think from a different perspective. So here is, and there are many different resources, many different CER hooks that you can use. The one that I like is about the gorilla versus the duct tape. And I don't know if you have seen this before, but I would like to show you. It's a 20-second seconds clip. I don't know if you can hear it. So basically what, I don't know if you were able to hear that or not, but you can easily find this YouTube clip on YouTube. So I show this to my students, I set it up, and in a way, the pre-setup of this lesson is like, okay, so what is the claim being made? And some students will say, well, it says the gorilla tape is stronger. And then I just keep working at it with them, saying, is that the actual claim? What is the actual claim here? I mean, yes, we get the sense that gorilla tape they are saying is stronger. Of course, that's their brand, go figure. But what is the actual claim here? And then the students, actually, some of them, or, they will come up with, actually, it's saying it's 3 times stronger. Now, because I'm a teacher of science and I'm like, looking for numbers, the quantitative data I can collect, now there is a bingo for me. And I say, yes, that is a good claim that we can investigate. And then we go into our investigation. So here's how I do a very simple setup. Again, depending upon the time I have, I can actually scale it up or scale it down. Sometimes I don't tell them how they can do this. I want them to come up with an idea how they can actually make a testing model or inquiry model for this. But sometimes when we are in the rut of the day, we don't have enough time, right? So I do tell them that this is the setup that we are going to use. And basically here you can see in the pictures, there is a 2 centimeter tape that I give them. They will have both in the similar, again, talking the idea about fair testing. If you're giving 2 centimeter of the duct tape, you're also going to give them 2 centimeter of the Gorilla tape. So all the other variables, are going to be the same. So again, depending upon your class, you can also talk about independent and dependent variables here. So anyhow, here's the setup. It is very simple. There is a bottle. You can see empty Gatorade bottle. You fill it up with water. You measure the mass. You measure how much water is in there in terms of liters. And then you just put the tip, the tape on the top of the lid of this bottle. And then you just put the ruler as a holder. As you can see in the right picture, the person is holding it. So the whole idea is the students keep increasing the amount of water. That will increase the mass also. But they have to figure out at what point does the tape hold at the top actually breaks. So if the tape hold breaks at, say, for example, 200 liters in this, then we are talking about, 200 milliliters, not liters, a way too big bottle. But if we say if the tape hold break at that, that's the point they record, and they then move on to the next tape. So they take 2 sets of data like this. So they have the volume of water, they have the total mass in terms of grams, and you can use the triple beam balance for that. You don't have to, but I just try to give them more quantitative data so they can actually have a good set of understanding of measurement. And then they actually make the observations. Did the system hold or not? And then any other observation they have. Sometimes they will say, it actually did not quite break the hold, but it was stretched out too much at this point of time. And it's a good observation to do. So anyhow, this is at the end, you come to a conclusion, and students actually figure out, by doing the math, if the Gorilla tape is actually 3 times stronger, because if it is 3 times stronger, you can prove it with the math, the numbers you will get here. And they really like to get into, sometimes it doesn't work. Like, sometimes the tape would be too old and the grip would not be too strong. So actually the results can vary with that. But then that's a good talking point, because you actually get to discuss it. Like, why did you get the results you got? And then you just your reasoning is based on your solid evidence that you collected, and it helps. Now, here's a very quick another example. If you like to do, if you really work with younger grades, and quite honestly, it works with every grade level most of the time when it comes to edible labs. But here's the one that you can actually do if you are into doing edible labs, the CER with it. Here is a Starburst CER. And again, if you click on the link above here, where it says, here is the link for the slides, you can click it and it'll bring up the Google Slides, which actually leads you how to do this, how to set it up. Basically, students, talk about, and you can do it with Starburst, or you can do it with any other candy or any other thing you have where the students have to make their claim. So, for example, in this one, they actually said, "Oh, the pink flavor is the best. Like, pink flavor is the best, not my best, but is the best. So why is it best?" And then they do their collect evidence and then write their final reasoning with it. So that brings us to another activity, and I'm keeping track of time. So it's called the escape room, and it is also known as the lockbox activity. So this has been remember we talked about the first pillar of UGL as being the most, giving the hands-on, where we can actually have the buy-in right from the get-go, have the students engaged in what we want them to learn, and be able to actually extend the learning on their own. And how do we do that is actually gamifying some of our lessons. This is a sense of where it's not actually a competition, but students do a series of puzzles. They solve it together collectively as a small group, and then they go on to the next challenge. And I have done this in the virtual setting, and I have done this in the in-person setting, and the majority of the feedback is really positive. There will be one or the other student who will think like, okay, what's the point of opening that lock, right? And you get it, and I get it, and that must be the day, not the child. But again, the whole idea is the majority of the students actually really see really good value, because they're solving, they love solving challenges or solving the puzzles. So basically what I will share with you today, a lockbox activity that I actually recently learned from educators at the Purdue University. And here is what they have done. This is how it looks like. And again, if you click on the link here that I have given on the top of this, it will bring you up to other logbox or the escape room activities on their website. So it's here is a cool resource. Just to give you, it may be looking very overcrowded, but this is just an idea to give you, what are the different things, and I'll walk you through in a bit. So basically, when you actually have a lockbox, this is actually how you set it up. So you will set it up, and this document is also embedded in your files in that slide, so you will have everything. So here you can see it says in the box numbers. Here is what exactly they're looking for. So the lock type in this case, in the first box, they're looking for a 4-digit numeric lock. So they have to come up with 4 numbers in terms of solving the first part of the challenge. So what they're going to do in order to come up with that? Well, they have to look at the pictures and figure out if they can find those words in the word search, right? So when they actually do this is how it looks like. So you have the document. I have actually embedded this document in the slides, as you can see. And when you click on it, you'll come up with the resource packet. And there are more pages to it for every section. So you can just print them out and do it in a physical copy format, or you can do it virtually as well. Either way works for on this activity. Anyway, so for example, here we have infographic front page. This is the first part of the puzzle, like the first challenge. So that it has 2 sides, right? This is side 1, which is an infographic on weather and climate. And then there is the back side of it. Because it's infographic, there are pictures and there are some little text. Now, if I were to be doing this as my interactive class right now, I would say, what similarities or what is something common you are noticing in this picture, in these pictures or on this slide? And then students make their observations, and some of them will say, well, I'm seeing some words have been circled, or I think some of these words are related to weather and climate in some way. They're talking about it. Well, good. So they're making all those connections, and in the same slide, in the other slide, they're making the same. Then that brings them to how to solve it, right? It tells them what to do. In order to find the code, they have to figure out those words that they have found. So find the correct words and shade them in to discover the combination to box number 1. So the students don't get the access to this copy. They don't get the access to this. You have this. This is the teacher's copy, so you have it. They are looking for this lock combo, okay, through the puzzles. So when they get this copy, they know what words they are. If they can identify all those words in here, again, this could be a very good vocab exercise as well. Then they have highlighted all the words, and here, boom, 1749. If they have got all the words correct, there they have the lock combination, and they come up to you, or they open the lock that you have. You can do it in all different settings. You can use a box with the lock with this code, or you can have an envelope, right? And you can set it up on Google Form, and they put this code in, and they are able to go on to the next challenge. So either way you can set it up. There's a lot of ways that you can make this work for them. Anyways, then the second puzzle is actually matching the graph. You give them a bunch of graphs with the statements, and then they follow along. They get the code. They will enter the second. They will finish the second round of challenge and enter the third one. The third one brings them to the crossword, and here again they work on these questions, and then they will follow directions, and at the end you will see all these colored boxes are the one that is going to make up that word, and they will come up with that combination. And the last challenge in this one is also, you can see the variety of different challenges you can fit in based on the curriculum or the topic you're teaching. And again, you can do it in any different subject, whatever your content is, you can make these log boxes. So if you're a teacher who's teaching geography, or you're teaching history, I also do this in science when we're talking about global climate. So we're talking about different cities and countries here in this graph. You can see on the right-hand side. And based on the color of that, you can write down the climate type. So if you were to come up with the correct color combination, you will end up with the correct code. Now, this is where you can actually check the prior knowledge, or you can also use this as one of the hands-on assessment methods. So either way you want to place it in your curriculum, this can be used very well. So that was our lockbox activity or escape room challenges. Again, all these slides have all these resources are embedded. Let me show you before you panic that if you're looking forward to do this and you don't have it. So this is the teacher's key. These are the graphs. Here is your crossword, and it looks like this. Here is your word search, and then these are the slides, and there's a lot more in the bottom. So all the resources are built in for you. All right, the next one is gizmos. And I will be looking at the time. I know we have some time. So here we go. Now, the next two ideas that I want to share with you, or the resources, are about the virtual lab simulations. When we had pandemic, boy, the biggest thing for me was, how to keep it very hands-on, even when we were distant. But what we have learned that even when we are in person, some of the things we cannot easily replicate in our labs, right? In our physical labs. So these platform simulations really are really good in terms of establishing some very higher order thinking skills, and them to become the scientists that we want them to become. They ask questions in the safe scenario. It's very, very safe because, all they're doing is on the virtual. And you know what? The best part is kids love playing games in the name of games, and they don't know they're actually learning about stuff. So this is actually a win-win for the teachers as well as for students, right? Actually, at least I find that in my personal opinion, my personal humble opinion. All right, so here we are, gizmos. Again, all the links are embedded. When you click on gizmos, it will bring you to this website. It's called Explore Learning Gizmos website. You can basically sign up for a free trial, and free trial give you more features, like you can see. But even if you're just signing up for free, just like this account, I just signed up with my free account. It has access to a lot of things. So for example, you can find any gizmo. Like if you're looking for greenhouse effect, like you see, you can just write the word and you can come up with whatever labs you're doing. There are so many to choose from, and you can then pick and choose and how it works. So for example, I like to do the sled wars because we're talking about energy. Let me show you how it looks like. So I clicked on it. It brought me to the sled wars here. Now it says launch gizmo. This is where it is going to launch when you click on it to actually work on simulation. But before we move on to that, I want to show you some of the things that actually comes with it. There are some lesson materials. You can use the PDF, the student exploration sheet. The good thing they have introduced during pandemic was Google Doc, because then you can use them in Google Doc format. You can modify it, you can edit it, and then you can just push it in your virtual platform, learning platforms. Like for me, I was using Google Classroom. So much more easier. Then also it is a answer key, which is only for teachers, and they actually request you not to share this online, which makes sense. And then you have a teacher guide, how you can set it up, what are the things you can do, what next generation science standards it actually covers, and then some more stuff like vocabulary sheet and stuff. So it's a really good resource if you're looking into, or if you want to try out the virtual labs. I just want to show you that I want to do a very quick demo of this. So there are. Sorry, here, if you actually scroll it down on that, you will see that other teachers, other educators from around who are using them, and they come up with an activity that they modify based on this, they share it here. So for example, Sled Wars task cards. This is geared towards 5th grade science. And then there is CER, again, claim, evidence, and reasoning exercise with Sled Wars Gizmo. So people share these, and I find them really, really helpful as well to extend learning. I want to, instead of just going through the Gizmo setup, let me show you how the worksheet looks like with it. So this is my modified worksheet. This is how it comes up, and you can modify it. Basically, it gives you a prior knowledge question, and then you can see this is the pre-conceptual notion of the concept that you're looking at. If your students where they are at, checking where they are, and then they actually do the exercise, and then you will check the ending of it, so you can see if they are still confused or where they need more clarification, and build your lessons, from that. So this is how actually the student exploration worksheet looks like. And then the task cards that I was talking about that I would love to work with you is this really quickly. So here's the task card, and you can read the top part. Watch out for that Yeti, that's a background, but I want to very quickly, for the sake of time that we have, just to read what the task is, and then go to show you how the actual gizmo works. So the task is, the Yeti wants to wreck some snowmen. He decides he wants to wreck exactly 2 snowmen. Now calculate the amount of potential energy needed to destroy exactly 2 snowmen without damaging the 3rd snowman. So what the students are going to do, they are going to simulate to find out what should be the potential energy they need. So in order to wreck exactly 2 snowmen, what is the amount of potential energy they will need? What should be the height of the Yeti on the sled? And what should be the mass, right? So when you launch the gizmo, all you have to do is to click here, launch the gizmo. I've already opened these links because sometimes it takes a few seconds depending upon your bandwidth. So I just wanted to have it ready. So when you open this is going to open it like this, right? So there are some parameters, features you can play around with. You're asking about 1 sled. You can also give them the question about 2 sleds. But let's do what we are doing. In the task card, it says, what should be the potential energy? What should be the height and mass of this Yeti to be able to wreck 2 snowmen? Now, look at this one. It is already set up at 100 kilograms of mass. You can see that? The red sled mass, you can increase or decrease this. So I'm just going to keep it at 100. The height, you can move the height to, the highest you can go is 50 meters. But I'm going to, again, bring it back to 25 as it was. And I'm just going to start, and we have 3 to start because we want to see if what height, what mass can actually wreck exactly the 2. So then you play your simulation. Okay, so now here you can say, some of your students can say, well, you know what, at 25 meters height, mass 100 kilograms, we would be able to wreck 2. But then some of your students will say, well, this is not a complete wreck. You just blew the head down of the second one, so it's not a complete wreck. All right, in that case, we're talking about complete wreck. So we can go back. In this case, I can increase the height by another 5 meters. So this time my height is 30 meters. My mass is, again, of the red sled is 100 kilograms. And let's see if it wrecks too much or too less, right? So here is the point where you can, again, talk about prediction. So what you predict, is it going to wreck all 2 of them, 3 of them? And then you can talk about it, the mass and relationship of the potential. There you go. And then again, somebody can say, oh, the whole thing is not wrecked yet. And then you can keep on going back and forth. Now, here's one feature that I want to show you is show energy, because remember, it asked you what potential energy it should have, right? So when you just show energy, it will show up the potential and the kinetic energy in joules. Of course, we measure energy in joules. So you can see it right here as well. So now this time I'm going to just increase it a little tad bit. Say 35 height, again, the same mass, and let's see what happens this time around. Complete wreck. That is a winner. And this is what I'm going to put this data. So it has potential energy when it started. That's the energy I had to record, right? So I'm going to give this information in my task card, and bingo, right? So there are so many ways you can actually use this. Different demos, different chemical reactions, like sometimes you cannot do the reactions. There's a whole set of labs up here. Also, you can sign up for the professional development they offer, free to teachers. And I find this really helpful. So you can look into it if you're interested. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer you that I am doing. But other than that, this website itself is really helpful. So here's, again, as I was saying, this is how the student exploration worksheet comes along with it. And you can edit it to suit your needs. All right. So then it comes to the PhET simulation. And the PhET simulation is actually by the University of Colorado. And they have done a really good job in presenting the virtual platforms for students to work on. This is one of the labs where you will, again, the link is embedded. I have the link is embedded in the header here where it says PhET simulation. If you click on it, it'll bring you to the website. But the worksheet that I created, here is a worksheet that you'll find. I have also embedded that for you if you are interested. Basically, when you get to the website, these are the 3 levels: the introductory level, the level if you're talking about friction and teaching that, and then roller coasters like the playground. And the students get to do this. So you can see the speed, you can click on the different forms of things that you're looking at, and then you put your skateboarder here, and then you can actually figure out if the kinetic, what happens if the kinetic goes up, does the potential goes up? What does the thermal energy goes up? And then you actually measures it up, and it also comes with a whole, walk you through the questions in the worksheet, and then the students use this platform to be able to answer those questions. So here's where they investigate the experience in the safe setting, and they actually are able to ask more questions or learn about it. So basically, that is the end of our session today. I hope you have found some value in the ideas that I had shared with you today. I'm very open to have your questions if you like. And I'm going to just going to bring it back from the presentation mode. If you would like, and totally up to you, if you would like, I would love for you to actually sign into this. I don't know if you can see the comments, but if you can sign into the Padlet. So at the end, what I do is, you can still see my screen, hopefully. You can sign into this Padlet, and this is what I use with my students, to give them an idea or platform where they can see each other's questions, what questions you have for me. And at the end of this class, they can just write it down. Sometimes I just keep it very interactive so they can see each other's questions. Sometimes I just keep it very, like, okay, only I can see what they write. So again, depending upon what settings you choose, you can do that. But I definitely want to say that thank you to everyone. Thank you, Vasani, for giving me this opportunity today. I hope you found any value in this. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Oh, I see questions coming up on screen. So Rita, you're asking, do you have some activities on chemistry or biology? So Rita, as I was saying, sharing with you, the one that is on Gizmos or the PhET, if you actually search their bars, you will find tons of activities on chemistry and biology. There are many virtual platforms, like virtual labs out there. I, in fact, use chemical balancing equations and the atomic structure right from there. So I'm seeing questions coming up in Padlet. Thank you, ma'am. It was interesting. Do we have simulations for primary classes also? So I don't see your name here. It is coming up as anonymous, but here's what I would like to say. If you are a primary or elementary teacher wanting to use the lab simulations, by all means, you are welcome to use those. What you can do is edit your worksheet so that you can make it more elementary focused. So if I were you, I will just put 5 questions that they can actually play around and figure out. So modify the worksheet that goes with the gizmo. And yes, definitely, Pooja. Thank you so much for making that comment. Differentiated learning is what we are looking for. I didn't say this earlier, but I'll say any model, any framework of learning that we do, think about it from the perspective of comparing the staircase to the ramp, right? Stairs are necessary sometimes and useful because it gets us from place A to place B. But stairs are very limited also. They're very exclusive, right? But if we have a ramp in place, so instead of those stairs, we can have people who have the need and who don't have the need, they can actually use that ramp. So how inclusive our lesson plans can be is on us. So thank you for making that point. Monica, yes, you can have everything from the PowerPoint. In fact, the presentation I did, I just told Ms. Sahani I will share my slides with her. And each slide, please look carefully in those links because every worksheet and every website link is embedded. So CER is actually it's a model called Claim Evidence and Reasoning Model. And when you walk it through the slides, you will see, how you can lead the inquiry or investigation using the CER model. But if you're a teacher of literary concept, then you can also use how to use this, what is the claim the writer is making or the author is making, and then what are the evidences from his writing or her writing, and then the reasoning. So you can use the CER model, the Claim Evidence Reasoning model, in any way, in any content area as well. I'm trying to gauge all the questions. Project-based learning, Shahila, I definitely can share some resources with you, but I will highly encourage you to actually go into the links that I have. I'm very sure you will find them as many PBL exercises and concepts as well. And you will have my email. So if you have any further questions, if I don't answer them here because I'm not seeing them all, then I will be very happy to send you some links as well. And then thank you, Pooja. That is very, very helpful comment. If there are any other questions, and you know what, just if you're like me, I don't think of questions like at the moment. They always come back to me when I've had some time to process what I've just been exposed to. So if you have any questions in that ways, you are very welcome to use my email. It's rbudakoti@sau29.org, which is also on the slides, on the very first slide, and that you will get. So yeah, please ping me with questions and I will do my best. I'm not an expert, but I love inquiring about things, and I will find you resources that I will come across that can help you.
I know your energy, Miss B, and I know that you will just keep going on. But this was just phenomenal. I mean, the strategies you shared were collaborative, were innovative, were creative, and I think there's a lot of praise in the chat box as well. Amazing strategy, wonderful idea. So all of that's coming in the chat. I still remember the Charlotte's Web that you did in the corridors and the Viking boat that you had in your room, and I think it was the rainforest boat, which was phenomenal. So I still I have visions of your classroom, and thank you so much for being so generous and sharing all of this with our community here and your community as well. I'm sure there are people joining in from there as well. So Ritu, thank you so much for being this phenomenal facilitator that you are and making that difference in every child's life. And we are so thankful that you were here for our session.
Thank you so much. My very, very big pleasure to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Always
I'll
a pleasure.
I'll share the link with you, and then you can disseminate to everybody.
Yes, we will do that. We have the mailing list of all the people who had registered. So we'll make sure that everybody who was here gets a copy of your fantastic.
If they're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're already
no pressure.
They're already asking for it, Ritu. So I'm sure they will be interested. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much once again. And now you enjoy your weekend. I know it's early morning there, right?
Yes, it is. It is, but not very early now. Now we are heading into 9 a.m. and that is pretty much up and about. But yes, I'm really looking. It's sunny after many days, so that is a good thing. Yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Your family wants you now. Saturday. Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care. Be well.